the Regional Peace Chair, Oyo State Peace Chair, my coordinator of presidents, fellow presidents, Rotarians, and guests present. The four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. 1, is it the truth? 2, is it fair to all concerned? 3, will it build goodwill and better friendship? 4, will it be beneficial to all concerned? The four-way test.
Thank you. May I call on Rotarian Akinleye, the Co-President, Rotary Club of Orita Mefa, to read Rotary Code of Conduct first.
Good morning, the coordinator of your state, Peace, conflict and prevention. My COP, all other protocols duly observed. Rotary Code of Conduct. The following code of conduct has been adopted for the use of Rotarians. As a Rotarian, I will, 1, act with integrity and high ethical standard in my personal and professional life. 2, behave fairly with others and treat them and their occupation with respect. 3, use my professional skills through Rotary to mentor young people, help those with special needs, and improve people's quality of life in my community and in the world. 4, avoid behavior that reflects adversely on Rotary or other Rotarians. 5, help maintain a harassment-free environment in Rotary meetings, events, and activities. Report any suspected harassment and help ensure non-retentions to those individuals that report harassment. The Code of Conduct.
Thank you. May I call on Rotarian Ayitayo to read object of Rotary first?
The Regional Peace and Conflict Resolution Chair, the Oyo State Chair representing fellow Rotarians, I read the object of Rotary. The object of Rotary is to encourage and foster the ideal of service as a basis of worthy enterprise, and in particular, to encourage and foster 1, the development of acquittance as an opportunity for service. 2, high ethical standards in business and professions, the recognition of the worthiness of all useful occupations, and the dignifying of each Rotarian's occupation as an opportunity to serve society. 3, the application of the ideal of service in each Rotarian's personal, business, and community life. 4, the advancement of international understanding, goodwill, and peace through a world fellowship of business and professional persons united in the ideal of service, the object of Rotary.
Thank you. May I now hand over this mic to the moderator for this seminar, the person of our state coordinator, Rotarian Olayemi.
My President of Presidents and League of Presidents here seated, distinguished Rotarians online, I highly recognize the presence of the District Chair, Peace and Conflict Resolution and Prevention. I equally recognize the presence of our second guest speaker today, Dr. Yomi Layinka. Please, can we just hear your voice, sir? Dr. Layinka, please, just to greet the house. Dr. Layinka, please.
Good morning, everybody. Rotarians, good morning. Thank you much for having me. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for joining us. Without wasting much of our time, we'll quickly go into the business of the day, which is the 2 sessions that we have. But probably before reading out, I want to plead with our audiences that immediately after each of the sessions, the lectures are presented. We can only entertain questions via SMS sent to the SMS link. And we can assure and guarantee you that as much of the questions that we have, we will present them for the speakers to talk about. But please, that is the only means by which we can quickly make sure that we take full advantage of the limited time that we have. So now I will quickly read the profile of the lead speaker, that is the District Chair, Peace and Conflict Prevention and Resolution, Ambassador Roy Stanley C. Nwafo. This is a very long list, but permit me that I will just do an abridged because of our limited time. Ambassador Roy Stanley Nwafo is a financial, tax, audit, peace and conflict consultant. He holds a second-class upper Bachelor's of Science degree, 2 Masters of Science in Accounting and Finance from Chukwuemeka Odumegu University, University of Abuja, and Howard University, USA, respectively, and a Doctorate of Philosophy degree in Conflict Analysis in view. His career spanning over 15 years in accounting, audit, tax, and finance, along a decade of practical experience in peace building, and has contributed his expertise and skill by applying the 3 E's: engage, educate, and empower the youth in positive peace building in Africa and beyond. His professional journey has equipped him with a robust foundation in financial management and strategy oversight, complemented by a comprehensive understanding of peace building principles and practice. Through his diverse background in accounting and finance, he has developed a keen eye for details, strategic planning, and adept financial control, qualities which are directly transferable to the pursuit of positive peace and conflict resolution. In the last 2003 presidential the 4 major contenders on the need to mainstream the 8 pillars of positive peace to their manifesto and campaigns. Additionally, he and his team members, referred to as the Peace Catalyst, have written a proposal for prisons decongestion and effectiveness of the criminal justice system. These multifaceted experiences have equipped him with a nuanced understanding of the challenges and dynamics with peace-building efforts and drives his continuous search for sustainable options to conflict. He is committed to leveraging his experience, knowledge, and network to support the objective of Rotary International and the Institute for Economics and Peace, and have contributed to fostering positive peace and sustainable development across the African continent by engaging with educating and empowering youth, advocating for inclusive governance, and promoting the fundamental principles of positive peace building. He has earned international and national awards and recognitions from accounting and taxation bodies, Rotary International, Institute for Economics and Peace, Peace Corps, United States Institute for Peace, Universal Peace Federation, Rose Foundation, Ministry of Youth and Sport Development, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ministry of Women Affairs, etc., to mention but a few. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the District Chair for Peace and Conflict Prevention and Resolution, District 9125, Ambassador Roy Stanley Nwafo. Thank you. Sir, you have your 30 minutes.
Thank you so much.
Immediately you start speaking, sir.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you very much for that reception. My State Peace Chair, Rotarian Olawale. Greetings to every Rotarian here, Rotaractors, if any, and guests and friends. And of course, I want to especially recognize the Regional Peace Chair Southwest, Rotarian Sheyi Alaba, joining in too, and of course, the Presidents of President and Leagues of Presidents here with us. It's another peace section today. And our moderator, I want to ask, please, can you share my screen? I know I shared something with you, or would you make me a host to share my screen?
Sir,
Hello?
they will give you a post to share.
Okay.
Now. You'll be able to share from your end.
Oh, okay. Okay, fantastic. So basically,
You can share now.
I want to talk. Okay, all right, let me do that. Give me a minute. Let me do that. So are you seeing my screen?
We can see it.
Excellent. So basically, I want to talk about positive peace education with the 8 pillars of positive peace. And of course, a case study of the youth anthem. And I'm sure many of us here know the Nigerian youth anthem, which says we no go gree for anybody, right? And of course, the positive peace puzzle. For the positive peace puzzle, we have the advanced, we have the intermediate, and we have the beginners. So first of all, I would want to take you on what positive peace is and what these pillars is and what these pillars are, because there are 8 of them. And of course, we would look at the application in our daily routines as individuals and as Rotarians very quickly. The next slide, it shows here that positive peace is a concept that goes beyond the absence of violence and encompasses a society's structure, attitudes, and institutions. And in pursuit of positive peace, the 8 pillars of positive peace provides a framework for understanding and fostering peaceful societies. So as individuals and members of organizations such as Rotary International and your various organizations you represent, we can apply these pillars to our day-to-day routine. This would analyze the 8 pillars of positive peace and explore on how we can integrate them into our daily lives as individuals and as Rotarians. The first pillar of positive peace is a well-functioning government, followed by a sound business environment, followed by equitable distribution of resources, followed by acceptance of the rights of others, followed by the good relationship with our neighbors. The next is free flow of information, high level of human capital, and low level of corruption. So the first pillar, well-functioning government. As individuals, we can contribute to this pillar by engaging in civic activities, staying informed about local and national politics, and holding our leaders accountable. So if we are to put the well-functioning government to our clubs, who are the leaders of our club? Or who's the leader of a club? The president. And of course, members of the board and members. So holding our leaders accountable is holding our president, holding our board members accountable, not just in Rotary, even in our organizations we represent. So as Rotarians, we can support projects that promote what? Good governance, transparency, and accountability in the communities we serve, in the club we serve, in the organization we work with. So this first pillar is extremely very key because it talks about 3 key inputs: good governance, transparency, and accountability. That's the first pillar of positive peace. The second pillar is sound business environment. This can be applied in our daily routines by promoting ethical business practices and advocating for fair trade. And of course, this pillar, it contributes to this pillar by mentoring entrepreneurs, promoting economic development, and supporting sustainable business initiatives. So we'd ask ourselves as club presidents, as board members, do we promote fairness? Do we promote ethical business practices? How do we run our club? How do we run our organizations so as to promote a sound business environment, so as to promote membership? Because if there are the business practices or the practices of businesses you run in your club are not ethical, trust me, we would lose members. Members will also lose confidence in the leadership. This same thing applies in our organizations that we work with as individuals. And of course, look at the team down. We no go agree for what? Bad business environment. Remember, we're applying the pillars of positive peace to the Nigerian youth system using the we no go agree for anybody, the youth anthem. So under it, it shows we no go agree for what? Bad business environment. So I'm going to go to the third one. The third one is equitable distribution of resources. This can be integrated into our lives by practicing mindful consumption, supporting initiatives that address poverty and inequality, and advocating for what? Fair distribution of resources in our community. And as you can see here, advocating for fair distribution. And I want my presentation to be interactive. If, for instance, I visit the club, Rotary Club of Ibadan, let me use, for example, Rotary Club of Ibadan Metro. And I'm asking the president directly that, okay, my birthday is today, and we're 20 in the club, and I bring just 20 gifts items to share. And of course, in the course of the meeting, we're 30, including visiting Rotarians and guests. How would you share my birthday gift? You could put your answers on the chat box, and maybe our state peace chair could read it out for me. How would you share, or this is to presidents, how would you share these resources? Remember, it's my birthday. I know that we're 20 members in the club. I brought exactly 20 gift items. And of course, we end up with, counting everyone, we're about 30 or 35. So how would you start sharing these gift items? So this talks about equitable distribution of resources. And of course, linking the youth anthem here, we no go agree for what? Inequitable distribution of resources. The fourth pillar is what? Acceptance of the rights of others. Human rights. This can be applied by practicing empathy, promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion, standing up against what? Discrimination and injustice. We as Rotarians can support projects that promote human rights, peace building, and conflict resolution. So this way, the other party won't feel discriminated. I think there should be freedom of speech. We shouldn't run a club or run an organization where there shouldn't be freedom of speech and freedom after speech. I think some organizations, you can air your views, you can air your points or your suggestions because you're afraid of what the public or what the club or what the members will think. And that way, he or she can't express his or herself. When others are making points and making values, I think we should accept the rights of persons to give free speech, to be able to talk freely, to be able to relate freely without discrimination and injustice. So the youth anthem here, we no go grief for what? Non-acceptance of the rights of others. The next pillar is good relationship with our neighbors. This can be fostering, it can be done by fostering positive relationship with our neighbors, community cohesion, and supporting initiatives that bridge what? Social divides. Of course, in our organization and in our clubs, we should promote peace and understanding among different communities and support cross-cultural exchange programs amongst ourselves. The youth anthem there, we no go grief for what? Bad relations with our neighbors. The sixth pillar of positive peace, free flow of information. Can be applied by staying informed, promoting media literacy, and of course, support what? Freedom of speech and freedom of the press. So information should be made accessible to club members. And Rotarians can also support these initiatives by promoting education and technology in underserved communities. Access to information, which is very key. If you're not well informed, you shouldn't speak about it, because sometimes these are issues and root causes of conflicts within ourselves as club members, even in our organization. From the president, I could have my inner meeting with the board members, agree on certain things, we publish it there out. At the end of the day, some persons are misinformed. And of course, they'll just get angry with the president without knowing the true picture, or having a true picture or a clear picture of what is happening. So you must be able to listen properly, to stay informed, because listening is also one of the tools of peace building. And of course, the language of passing this information to matters, your tone, so as not to get the other party aggrieved, because all of us are humans. The youth anthem there is what? We no go grief for what? Restrictions on free flow of information. High level of human capital is the seventh pillar of positive peace. Investing in education, skills development, lifelong learning, supporting projects that provide access to quality education, vocational training, like we had in January, the month of vocational training, and professional development opportunities. Promoting activities that has to do with investment in education, human capital in our health, in skills development, and in lifelong learning. The more we live, the more we learn. So this is the seventh pillar. And the last but not the least, which is the eighth pillar, low level of corruption. This is tied to the first pillar. Promotes what? Transparency, and of course the word integrity. Integrity and accountability in our personal and professional lives. Rotarians and individuals can support anti-corruption initiatives, advocate for what? Ethical business practices, culture of integrity in our organizations and communities we serve. And of course, you see the youth anthem there. We no go grief for what? Corruption. So in conclusion of the 8 pillars of positive peace, Applying the 8 pillars of positive peace in our day-to-day routine as individuals and Rotarians, it requires a whole lot of commitment to good governance, to ethical business practices, to equitable distribution of resources, to respect for human rights, to positive relationship, to access to information, to human capital development, and of course, to low level of corruption, which is integrity. This way, it will contribute to the creation of peaceful and sustainable societies. This way, it will contribute and create a peaceful club. And of course, the youth anthem there is what? We go green for what? The 8 pillars of positive peace. So let me quickly go to the puzzles before I round up. Like I told you, we have 3 types . We have 3 types of positive peace puzzle. Are you seeing my screen? Can you see my screen, please?
Yes, sir, but it's okay. Yeah, we're seeing now.
Yes. Of course, this is the, okay. All right. This is where I wanted to be. This is the advanced positive peace puzzle. How many of us in the audience can see this puzzle properly and can see these words? You know, the 8 pillars of positive peace has inputs, three key inputs. Like, for instance, transparency and accountability talks about the first pillar of positive peace, which is a well-functioning government. Best practices talks about sound business environment, which is the second pillar. Integrity talks about what's called low level of corruption, which is the 8th pillar of positive peace. So can you see these words in this puzzle? Can I just have 3 persons who can see any of the words?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
right.
Ambassador, we can see.
Which one can you see?
Integrity, diversity, equity, all that. We can see them, sir.
I see peace
Okay.
building.
Can you see it on the puzzle itself?
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
I see peace building on the puzzle.
Where's peace building? On what
It's-
side? On second left or
It's on
third
the
right or where?
it's on the left side in the first column going vertically. It's the third letter goes peace building on the very extreme left.
Oh,
Going
all right.
vertically.
Yeah, I
peace
see
building.
it. Yeah, vertically, peace building. Yes. The first column.
Yes, correct. I see freedom of
Peace.
speech. I see accountability.
Freedom of speech. Yeah. 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 So that's the advanced. Yeah, you see freedom of speech.
Correct.
Freedom of speech
speech.
is the second line.
Yes, sir.
Yeah?
Yes. And I see accountability on the third line.
On the third line. Excellent.
I'm not going to be the only one to play, so I'm going to mute my microphone now.
My chair,
Thank you so much.
my chair.
Thank you so much.
Sorry for the interruption.
Yes.
Can we have,
Yes, please.
can the speaker just give us a name in the message chat so that we can recognize who is talking or who is answering those questions?
Oh, okay. Please, the
Okay.
speaker.
I will do that now. I'm Rotarian Christine from District 9125, Rotary Club of Abuja, Socorro Diamond. I will write it in the chats.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, sir.
So that's the advanced positive peace puzzle. And it's strictly for Rotarians. designed for Rotarians. Of course, let's go to the intermediate, which is designed for Rotaractors. But of course, some Rotaractors did the puzzle for Rotarians and also did theirs. This intermediate, you can see nonviolence, anti-war, tolerance, connect, empathy, responsibility, communication, conflict resolution, abundance, cooperation, ethics, fairness, variety, involvement, engaging, educating, empowering, positive peace, honesty, clearness. I remember in peace building, as much as we have to love one another, we need to also apply the double T, which we call trust and tolerance. The 3 E's, like we all know: engage, educate, and empower. And you could see them in this puzzle. I'm going to drop that with the regional chairperson, Southwest Shea Laba. I'm also going to drop that with the state peace chair, Rotarian Olawale. I'm going to drop that with him with the puzzles. So we could go through it because of time and fix these puzzles. It's very simple. The Intermediate Positive Peace Puzzle 2023-2024, a guide to the 8 pillars of positive peace. Then let's go to the last one, which is supposed to be for the interactors. And that's the beginners. Yeah, look at the beginners. It has what you call WFG, which is the first pillar. That's well-functioning government. So you look for WFG over here. You look for SBE on the puzzle, which is sound business environment. We look for EDR, which is equitable distribution of resources, which is the 3rd pillar. We look for ARO, which is acceptance of the rights of others. We look at GRN, which is good relationship with neighbors. FFI, which is free flow of information. HLHC, which is also in the puzzle, HLHC, high level of human capital. And of course, the last but not the least, the 8 pillar LLC, which is also on this puzzle, LLC. Yeah, it's here. Low level of corruption. Then of course, words like peace, oneness, unity, love, protection, true, together, gratitude, joy, respect, harmony, good wishes, divine. These are built. This is a positive peace puzzle built for interactors in our secondary schools to just get really educated and empowered with the 8 pillars of positive peace. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak towards on the 8 pillars of positive peace. And of course, aligning it with the We No Go Gree for anybody, the youth anthem in Nigeria, but we go gree for the 8 pillars of positive peace. And of course, lastly, relating it to the 3 positive peace puzzles that I've just shown you. Thank you. And of course, God bless.
My district chair, thank you so much for your beautiful presentation. And I think the audience are quite appreciative of the effort that has been put into putting this together. While we cannot but continue to say thank you, I want to urge all listeners of this event to please, if you have any question, we will be taking the question after the second speaker has delivered his message. But please, you can continue to send your comments or your questions to the message chat so that we can quickly be collating. And immediately we have the time, we pass the question to the speakers for them to respond. I must also recognize that the district chair was very conscious of his time and you are still within range. That's a very good one for Rotarians. I appreciate you for that. May I now invite the second speaker, Dr. Yomi Layinka, whose profile will be read by Hope President Ibadan West, Rotarian Emu. Please.
The district chair, all protocols duly observed. This is the citation and profile of Dr. Yomi Layinka. Dr. Yomi Layinka is a media and marketing strategist who trained in the dramatic arts under the tutelage of Nobel laureate Professor Wole Soyinka, who was his head of department when he graduated in 1980 from the University of Ife. He later pursued postgraduate diploma studies in marketing at the University of Lagos before earning an MSc in marketing at the University of Salford, Manchester in 2022. In 2022, he was awarded a PhD degree in political communication by the Leeds City University, Ibadan. A screenwriter, movie director, and media personality, Mr. Yomi Lainka was a founding member. Dr. Yomi Lainka, was a founding member of television service in Oyo State, TSO, where he worked as a producer when the station opened in 1982. In the course of a career spanning about 4 decades, he has directed and produced countless radio and television programs, documentaries, advertisements, and training materials for leading brands in Nigeria and Africa, including the World Bank, MTN, Guarantee Trust Bank, UBA, Globacom, Lever Brothers, Coca-Cola, and has served as media advisor to several blue chip conglomerates and public institutions across Africa. Dr. Lainka was co-founder and executive director of Channels Television Nigeria, Nigeria's most celebrated private television station, and now sits on the board of a number of companies involved in broadcasting, digital marketing, advertising, branding, media content development, and cultural tourism. Between 2000 and 2003, Dr. Lainka was chairman of the editorial board of Ekiti Now, a newspaper established by the Ekiti State government-owned Fountain Newspapers and Publishing Company Limited, of which he was a board member. In 2011, Dr. Yomi Lainka was appointed the Chief Operating Officer of the Broadcasting Corporation of Oyo State, during which he produced the highly regarded program christened the Yomi Lainka Interview. In 2015, he was appointed Special Advisor, Communication and Strategy to the Oyo State Governor, Senator Abiola Ajimobi. Dr. Lainka is Chairman, CEO of Media Strategies Limited, a firm of communication and event management consultants. He is also the chief promoter of the Ibadan Media City project, whose vision is to become the leading regional hub that will drive the creative economy of Western Nigeria by leveraging on the immense cultural, infrastructural, and demographic resources of the Yoruba people at home and in the diaspora. Join me as I heartily welcome Dr. Yomi Lainka.
Doctor, you have your 20 minutes now.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'll try to be within the time frame. Let me start by appreciating the very generous introduction. I had asked Rotary about to please just read only one paragraph, at best 2, but I see he has gone on to read many more. Thank you very much, and good morning, Rotarians. Good morning. I like to adopt all established protocols so that we can get started and over and done with. I am going to speak basically on conflict, the concept of conflict, conflict management and prevention and resolution. I'm also going to speak on peace and peace building. Those are the basic framework of my intervention this morning. So basically it's about conflict prevention, peace and peace building. Let's start with conflicts. There are several theories underpinning the idea of conflict, and these have been established over time. And conflict theories are perspectives in political philosophy and sociology, which argue that individuals and societies and groups within society interact on the basis of conflict rather than agreement. It also emphasizes these issues of social psychology, historical materialism, power dynamics, and their roles in creating power structures and power relations. It also speaks to social movements and how society is organized along power structured lines. Conflict theories often draw attention to, as I said, power differentials, such as class, such as age sometimes, gender, and power, as we know, generally contrasts, historically within different ideologies, economies, currencies, even technology, because power structures are usually also gendered, between sexes, also based on age, based on social status, and so forth. And it's also about conflicts between what you might call the oppressed and the oppressors, and the continuous battle for resolution of these conflicts is what conflict theory is about. The first person who developed this theory was Karl Marx, the German philosopher, who developed conflict theory in response to the exploitation of the poor working class by the rich capitalists of that era, even now. And so conflict theory reveals the ongoing conflict between different groups in society to gain dominance over each other. And usually, of course, this tends to then divide society into the oppressed class and the oppressor class. The tension between this group is usually, of course, due to the struggle over scarce resources. One group wants to dominate, the other groups want to fight back. And so it's a perpetual and perennial contest and contestation for access to resources and the dominance over such resources. And of course, the affluent class, tries to keep control over wealth and power. The working class attempts to gain access to these resources. This dispute sometimes leads to revolutions, which fuel changes in society. And it's been so from the beginnings of time, and perhaps will be so until the ends of time. So it's an endless conflict. Now, the conflict theory has three assumptions. One, that humans are self-interested and therefore will do those self-interests to no end. The second assumption is that society operates under perpetual scarcity of resources. And scarcity of resources. A third assumption is that conflict is pervasive and unavoidable within social groups and within social groups and between social groups. Those are assumptions underpinning the theories of conflict. And it starts, conflict arises from a Latin word, confligere, which can be understood as shock, clash, collision between what and what. Another idea of conflict is a metaphor between one and more cars. For instance, you can ask, is this conflict between a shock between two lumps of metal, two cars crashing, for instance, is a conflict? Or is it between two drivers of those cars? In which case you humanize the conflict, because the conflict can be between institutions, but it's usually driven by the innate humans who drive these institutions or even drive these technologies, and their motives then underpin why this conflict is usually quite tasking. Let me move on so that we can go on to some other issues. For instance, I want to move on to conflict management and negotiation. Having established the basis of the theories of conflict and the motivation sometimes. You know, as I said, the term conflict refers to perceived incompatibilities resulting from some form of interference or opposition. Conflict management then is the employment of strategies to correct these perceived differences in a positive manner. For many decades, managers have been taught to view conflict as a negative force. However, conflict may either be functional or dysfunctional. Whereas dysfunctional conflict is destructive and leads to decreased productivity, functional conflict may actually encourage greater work efficiency and productivity in the workplace. I mean, for instance, some writers, Boris and Victor, have pointed out that, and I quote, "We have come to recognize that and to acknowledge the benefits dealing with conflicts. Because of our differences, we communicate, we're challenged, and we're driven to find creative solutions to problems." So for them, conflict is actually positive because it forces us into dialogue. It forces us into negotiations. And at the end of the day, better ideas come out of these negotiations, and it becomes a win-win situation for everybody. Briefly, let me just talk about the evolution of conflict management. You know, in its early days, conflict management was based on the assumption that all conflict was bad, as I said, and was always counterproductive. But you know, in this era, there was conflict avoidance because it was thought to be bad. So the general approach was to avoid conflict. This was in the 40s, especially at the industrial level. The avoidance approach to conflict management was prevalent during this part of the 19th century, especially, and it ran on to about the 1940s. But we have found out that conflict avoidance is not necessarily a satisfactory strategy for dealing with conflict. Conflict avoidance usually leaves everybody in limbo because the sources and the motivation for the conflict is unresolved because you avoid it. And so everybody, rather than speak or talk about it, everybody avoids it. But conflict avoidance is therefore not necessarily useful in the long run. Then there's the human relations view of conflict management, which dominated the 40s and the 1970s. This viewpoint of conflict was a natural, said that conflict is natural and inevitable in any organizational setting, in any social setting. So approach it from the basic agreement or an assumption that conflict is inevitable, is human, and therefore we must deal with it rather than avoid it, as was the case earlier on. But since the 1970s, down to these times, a new position has emerged, and this is called the interactionalist approach to conflict management. This viewpoint espouses not only accepting conflict, actually encouraging it. The theories of this point of view feel that a conflict-free, harmonious, and cooperative organization soon becomes stagnant, and development then becomes less exciting. On the other hand, if conflict were in fact used positively as a process of engendering alternative ideas, of engendering competitiveness, of engendering the development of new resources, then it becomes productive. This more interactionist approach is what most people have become more enamored about, and therefore conflict has become, from what it was before, a negative social occurrence, that has become, in fact, a positive and increasingly useful means of generating productivity and development in society. As I mentioned before, we just basically also briefly mentioned sources of conflict. We talked about scarce resources. We can talk about personality clashes. We can talk about goal differences within Rotary, within any organization. If there are goal differences, personality differences, scarce resources, these are indeed veritable drivers of conflict among people. Now, I come to conflict management methods. I have spoken about the evolution of conflict management from avoidance to the interactionist approaches. Now, I'd like to talk about, for instance, I had mentioned avoiding conflicts, which is a style, competing conflict resolution style, accommodation style, compromising style. The compromising style, for instance, is characterized by moderate levels of assertiveness and cooperativeness. One group asserts itself and yet cooperates. I mean, the labor movement, for instance, and government are perpetually at each other's throats. And sometimes they assert, they're threatening to go on strike. The government comes out and says, if you strike, we'll take it out of your salary. So there's assertiveness. And yet, at the end of the day, there's cooperativeness, because then they meet at the resolution table and there's a give and take that ultimately ends, or at least temporarily suspends the conflict. There's the collaborating conflict resolution style, you know, which gives a win-win scenario. Of the 5 models I just mentioned, you know, the collaborative seems to have become the more productive between the tendencies on the opposing side of the conflict. You know, so let me go on to a proposal. What's the author of that idea, Damali Peterman, calls the 4 C's of conflict management. He talks about these 4 C's and he calls them the first C is commitment, the second one is communication, the third one is conflict resolution, and camaraderie, pardon me. The first is commitment. Commitment involves loyalty, reciprocity, and all of that. The key to keeping a team committed is to focus on the individual interests. What is it, as the Americans would say, what's in it for me? So if you care about what's in it for the other person, then you are committed to that person's interest, and therefore the likelihood of resolution is higher, you know. The other one is communication. This is an area, understandably, because that's my background, an area where a lot more time needs to be spent, not just at this meeting, but generally in society. Because we find out that a lot of times, the reason why conflict lingers, whether between competing communities, within workers and management, among friends, is communication or lack of it. Or poor communication. Poor communication is when your intention is lost in translation. Lack of communication is when you don't even offer an explanation as to the reason why you're doing what you want to do, or why you are speaking the way you are speaking. And therefore, communication is central to generating conflict. It is also certainly central to resolving conflict. So communication is an area that has been less interrogated, and people therefore take it for granted that, he or she should understand what I'm saying. No, he or she cannot understand, because our perspectives are different, our backgrounds are different, our language understanding are different, our signs and symbols are different. You know, just as an example of signs and symbols, what do Muslims say or think about the cross? The crescent. How do Christians relate to the cross? And if either of them do not or are not sensitive or empathetic to how they understand their respective symbols, then there will be clashes. And we've seen those clashes across the world, several times over. So communication is key. Next is conflict resolution. I was talking about the 4 C's of this gentleman, Jamali, who has proposed 4 C's of conflict management. So there is conflict resolution. As I said before, conflict usually arises largely from power, identity, and emotion. And if we understand that power, the contest for power, identity, you are not who you are, and you are questioning my identity, or you rubbish my identity, I'm likely to fight back. My emotions, what makes me think, tick, what makes me angry. Those are also issues that conflict resolution takes care of. The final one is camaraderie. It's the spirit of friendship or community that is essential to a work environment. If you're friendly with somebody, you are less likely to get conflict with him or her. Let me wrap this part of it up by also talking about a 5-step methodology to conflict resolution. One is identify the source of the conflict. The most information about the cause of the conflict, what you need to know, why is the conflict there. If you identify the source of the conflict, you will begin to address the problem if you want a solution to it. Now, the second step is look beyond the incident. So he says to me, get out of my sight. And that's, for me, the source of the conflict when I report it. But if I look beyond that incident, I might find out that this person who said, get out of my sight, was under some kind of emotional challenge at the time it happened. And if I look beyond that incident, I'm likely to have a greater understanding of the context. And therefore, I'm less likely to take offense, because now I understand, oh, his father just died. And so he was in an emotional state of crisis. And no wonder his rational thinking was affected. This would affect how I take it. So looking beyond the incident is a critical step, the second step. The third step is to request solutions. In other words, go to the other party and say, okay, how can we resolve this? Request solutions so that party says, it's like a negotiation. Oh, okay, I want this. This is the way I think it should be resolved. Don't impose that resolution on your own. Request a solution so that you can negotiate it. The fourth step is to identify solutions that both the disputants can support. If you both agree, these are 1-2 steps we can take, and steps that are sustainable, that both of us can act on, then you are more likely to find a resolution. And then, of course, finally, the fifth step is to have an agreement. Once you have agreed on the steps to take to resolve the issue, you agree and, as it were, sign off the agreement. So this mediation process works whether between groups or individuals, and so in a sense, conflict management can be resolved if you understand the issues, if you're fair enough with yourself, if you are also willing that each part to the conflict gets something out of that conflict without a winner takes all attitude. The likelihood, of course, is that you would have peace. Which brings me to the second and final part of my presentation, peace. So what is peace? What is the meaning of peace? The term peace is used in a wide spectrum of ways, and it's derived from the Latin word pax, which means a pact, a control or agreement to end war. In other words, or end war, any disputes between two people, two nations, or two antagonistic points of view. Once you agree to end that conflict, then you will have peace. It's a pact, it's an understanding, it's an agreement to live in mutual peace. And historically and politically, we have seen that happen over time. I like to just quote Albert Einstein, the famous scientist, a Nobel winner, who says, peace is not only an absence of war, but it means and includes the presence of justice, law, order, or government. So peace is not merely the absence of war, but the presence of justice and law and order. On his own part, Martin Luther King, the famous human rights activist, says that peace must include justice in society. He says true peace is not merely the absence of tension, it is the presence of justice. His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, says peace is in a sense the absence of war, but peace can only last where human rights are respected, where people are fed, where individuals and nations are free. So we see, lastly, Jawaharlal Nehru, the Indian Prime Minister, emphasized peace in the sense of a state of mind. In his own view, peace is not a relationship of nations. It is a condition of mind brought about by the serenity of the soul. Peace is not merely the absence of war, it is also a state of mind. So we can see different perspectives of the concept of peace, but essentially we see peace is an absence of war, is a state of mind, is a state of justice, of fairness, of equity, where all parties in an environment, in a group, in a community, can live in amity, in harmony, because there's justice, there's love, there's peace, there's order, and there's mutual understanding. Lastly, I come to peace building. What is peace building? Peace building means supporting people in or at the risk of conflict to prevent or end direct violence. Preventing or ending direct violence requires people to talk to one another, to build relationships, and come to agreement about how to resolve conflicts without fighting. Now, in many contexts, there are groups or actors who may seek or favor violent conflict and benefit from it. For example, to weaken a neighboring region, generate or sustain business opportunities, or reinforce political narratives and authority. Peace is when people, therefore, can resolve conflicts without using violence. It is also a condition that allows for respectful coexistence and positive social change. Now, what I would like to summarize with is, why should we build peace? We should build peace because, according to the United Nations Declaration on Human Rights, everyone has a right to life. And violence has not proven to be an effective way to resolve conflict. Violence makes people's lives worse. For instance, 1/4 of the world, about 2 billion people, live in conflict-afflicted areas. In fact, as of 2021, 1 in 78 people have been forced to flee their homes due to conflict, violence, and persecution. In 2021, violence cost the equivalent of 10% of the world's economic activity. In 10 countries most affected by violence, the economic cost of violence averaged 34% of GDP compared to 3.6% in 10 of the least affected countries. Consequently, violent conflicts prevent positive development. Conflicts and fragility have now become the single biggest obstacle to achieving the sustainable development goals, just as conflict drives 80% of the world's humanitarian needs. Rotarians, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, a world which seeks to leave no one behind must focus increasingly on those who live in the most fragile and conflict-afflicted places. All of us, therefore, need to individually and collectively work together to address violent conflicts in order to improve all aspects of our people's lives. Thank you for listening, and thank you very much for having me.
Doctor, thank you so much for your time and the beautiful presentation. We are very grateful for this effort. In terms of the questions and comments that we have spoken about, as of now, we have not received any questions or comments from the online participants, but from within house, do we have anybody with any question or comments so far? Yeah, Rotarian Alaba, please.
Oh, thank you very much, Dr. Yomi Layinka. That was a very fantastic presentation. During the course of your presentation, sir, I caught what you said, that conflict, it's natural and it's inevitable. I want to ask, how tenable is this view that conflict is natural and inevitable? Can you please give us a more insight into this? Thank you very much, sir.
Doctor, I hope you get the question clear, sir.
Yeah, I did.
You may have your...
I did. Okay. You remember I spoke about the whole idea of conflict being a contestation between people, institutions, and societies. And it usually arises when you're contesting for resources. I'll give you an example. Oyo State wants to be represented at the Federal Executive Council of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. If none of the citizens of Oyo State is made a minister, you know how much conflict that will create and tension in Nigeria? And we've seen it. Communities, sections of the nation have agitated for non-inclusion because that is an opportunity for shared resources. How can we have a Federal Executive Council that Oyo State is not represented at? That is a source of conflict. So it's human in the sense, therefore, that every human, even within a family, among our children, if you give this one a gift and this one is not given a gift, of course, you have sown the seed of conflict. So it's human to the extent that it's primordial. It starts from the very beginning since we were born. Even a baby whose mother denies him breast milk will fight, will cry. So it tells you how human this urge for sharing and taking and negotiation is. It's inevitable, therefore, that human beings also recognize that the conflict is natural when there are any contests or perceived injustices, and it has to be resolved by coming together and identifying the source of conflict and mutually agreeing to resolve it for mutual benefits. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We are very conscious of our time, and I know as many of the participants online, there's a comment. Okay, what's the name? Please just read for us, please. Read the name of the commenter.
Rotarian Elijah Oni. My question to the speaker is, how can peace building be practicable with the current economic crisis in Nigeria?
Doctor, the question, sir.
Yes. Again, you know, as they say, every war ultimately ends on the peace table. Every war in the world has almost always ended on some peace roundtable. World wars, the Ukrainian Russian war is going to end on some negotiation table. So in spite of the challenges that we go through, or we're going through, economic challenges in Nigeria today, peace has to be a condition for us to even enjoy the windfall that will come after all this transition process. But you know, as I also mentioned, that peace is predicated on justice, on fairness, on equity. And therefore, those in ruling authority must approach governance with that intention to be fair to all parties, so that one section of the society, a little percentage of the society, is not enjoying to the detriment of the majority. And once the majority sees, for instance, the whole concept of sacrifice for national development, if workers, the poor, can see their leaders and legislators and governors become a lot more moderate in their taste and flaunting of wealth, they will be understanding of the process of sacrifice that you have called them to. So I believe that, again, leadership is required in that sense, to show personal example of sacrifice, so that people who are actually at the bond, at the receiving ends of these challenges can see that you mean well. You are not asking us to sacrifice while you are living in affluence. I think that would be a good condition to generate peace and peace-building efforts. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sirs. My district chair, this comment is for you. Ambassador Roy, are you with us? Ambassador Roy, please.
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, my quick comment to you is that the puzzle that you shared, we can leverage to play with among Rotarians, Rotaractors, as earlier said. Are we good to use that?
Yeah. Yes, no, the Positive Peace Puzzle is an educational tool which enlightens us more on the pillars of positive peace. So it's open to all, Rotarians, Rotaractors, Interactors, and of course,
all right,
individuals.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much. Thank
you.
What I'm just going to say now is to Rotarian and Baba, who commented very well on the issue of the puzzle. And at the instance of the district chair, there is a small gift to appreciate her. So I've requested that she share her phone number with me for us to be able to transmit the little gift that we have for her. I hope she's online to hear what I've said. If you can respond, please, we want to hear your voice. Rotarian Baba.
I think, as I mentioned in the course of the presentation, conflict has been one of the seriously mitigating factors against the achievement of sustainable development across the world. And because, I mean, where you have conflicts and violent conflicts especially, you cannot possibly have development because you're perpetually at each other's throats. You cannot have mutual understanding, set goals, and achieve. So the reduction in conflict across the world, the efforts at building peace would certainly aid and pace the process of achieving sustainable development. Specifically for the Rotary Club, as a club, I think what we can do, what we should be talking about, as Rotary has done over time, is to focus on some specific areas of these many 16 or 17 sustainable development goals to pick 1, 2 areas where we can excel, where we have competitive advantage to leverage and show examples, whether it's water, whether it's health, for instance, and show how by building peace around these communities, we can actually make a difference in these specific areas. I do not think, for instance, that the world, no matter how quickly we rush on to having peace around the world, that we would achieve all these sustainable development goals in one fell swoop. Therefore, I will talk about prioritization, which ones are of more immediate transformative impact on these communities. And those are the ones we should be focusing on. For instance, since the motivation largely for conflict and is about the lack of access, maybe by focusing access on access to food, access to health, access to education, will then reduce the need for conflict. I think, generally speaking, emphasizing, campaigning, and creating platforms for peace-building efforts would genuinely make this happen. One last thing, I did mention that, but permit me. In my view, again, because this is my background, I think most of the world's conflict, apart from the lack of resources and the contest for resources, is how these conflicts have been framed by communication. I mentioned it just to emphasize that our media personnel, and this is a task that Rotary can take on, is to begin to educate our media practitioners on how to frame these differences, because sometimes these conflicts are exacerbated by the way the media frames them. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Yomi. I really love that response.
My state peace chair, you're muted. We're not hearing what you're saying. You're not audible. We're not hearing what you're saying from here.
Hello, are you hearing me now?
Yes, loud and clear. Thank you.
Yes, we're hearing now.
Thank you. The question from the Professor Sheikh is that, is it strategic for leaders to use conflict management to get followers to talk in whatever climate? I wouldn't know. But if he is hearing me, Professor Sheikh, you can please frame your question rightly now. Otherwise, the speaker should take it as they understood what I've said.
Okay, sorry. Thank you very much, Chair. My question is, having seen that the using conflicts at times helps in making get to take place, can a leader like a president now strategically use the method of putting forward a stylish conflict to ensure that members now can now get engaged, they can now talk? Because there are times you want your leaders to be part of a process and they're like withdrawn, they are not too sure. Is it possible to use conflict as a strategy to make them be part of a process? Thank you very much. I hope this is clear. Sorry, my name is Rotary Sheikh D. Abakar, the CP Rotary E-Club of Golden Nigeria. We're based in Abuja. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. The speakers, one after the other, very short answers.
I yield to the chair. Well, if the chair is not there, you can hear me, maybe I should take the shot first. Can you hear me?
We're hearing you, sir.
Good. Thank you, Sheikh. And it's a very interesting and ingenious question, if I may say. But the truth of the matter is that leaders have always used it. They've always used it, even if they don't admit it openly, they've always used it. I mean, including what you might call divide and rule, which is an age-long strategy of creating conflict among a group so that you can then infiltrate them and get them weakened sometimes, so that their resolves are weakened so that you can have your way as a management. The colonialists did it for us. The empires came into the colonial territories and created divide and rule between the rulers and the ruled, using religion, using ethnicity, and all of that. Now, there's a positive way it can be used. And as I mentioned earlier on, especially in the industrial space, the management throws in ideas, in a round table, stakeholder engagement, and says, can you resolve this by taking different positions so that we can generate seemingly conflicting ideas initially, but ultimately harvest different perspectives that may then be useful to everybody. I mean, in the design process in manufacturing, for instance, no car gets out of the manufacturing line just because somebody sketched it. It will usually be a brief between different designers and engineers with different backgrounds and orientations, and say, can you give us ideas? And so you have a harvest of different ideas and designs from which you streamline, and eventually the best ideas are integrated and you have a final product. It can happen in social engineering. It can happen in community development to create, intentionally generate ideas by creating positive conflict initially. Thank you.
My district chair, your own take on that question.
Oh, okay. Thank you, my state peace chair. The question again is on how strategic a leader to employ the use of conflict to get followers to talk or get engaged. Of course, we know that every individual has a leader, or he or she is he or she has respect or loyalty for. For instance, where I'm going to is in the area of religion. Here represent different faiths. We have the Muslim, we have the Christian, we have the traditional worshipers. And of course, if in that case, where you're trying to bridge in peace building, and in the church, for instance, the pastor has his followers. If these pastors preach peace and tell their followers where to go to, of course, trust me, they would go in the line of positive peace. But if it goes in the other way, it goes on negative peace. So our religious leaders, religious engagement have a lot of role to play here, be it in the mosque, be it in the church, be it in traditional worshiping. And of course, again, the family has also a big role to play here too, when it comes to followers. Of course, you get to a family where you see the head of the family has his own belief on what he wants to portray, especially when it comes to conflict resolution. And of course, members of his family, as the head of the family, you want to go in line with what the head of the family says. It might not be the real thing, it might not be the right thing to do, but of course, because you're under that same roof and it's family, just need to just look the other way and follow and play along. So our community, our family, and religion has a lot of role to play in peace building today. But of course, let us imbibe the nature of love, peace, trust, and tolerance. Conflict is inevitable because human beings right there on my screen, if I draw a 9, like what the former presenter, the past presenter said, if I draw a 9 from my screen here, I'm sure everybody at the other side will be seeing a 6. And when you're seeing a 6 from there, it doesn't mean my views are wrong, because what I'm seeing from this side is a 9, and what you're seeing from there is a 6. So we're all correct. It has to do with our perception as individuals, and let's try and make peace and live together. Thank you.
Thank you, my chair. I want to recognize the presence of PDG Mbanefo Nnoka, who is joining us online. My PDG, sir, can you just quickly greet the house as we proceed to closing the program, sir? PDG Nnoka, sir. PDG, are you with us here? Okay, whenever you are ready, we would like to hear your voice. But now we are shutting down the events as we are fast approaching the dedicated time that we set. So I will quickly invite the regional peace coordinator for the Southwest, in person of Rotarian Sheyi Alaba, to help us give a vote of thanks to the speakers who have done so well in dealing with the various issues of interest today. AG Sheyi Alaba, please.
Thank you very much, the State Chair, Peace Rotarian Yemi Olawale. On behalf of the District Governor 9125, DG Ahmed Zagab, and the District Chair for Peace, District 9125, I want to sincerely appreciate all our speakers. We appreciate you for taking time out of your very busy and tight schedule to identify with us this morning. We appreciate our own District Chair, Ambassador Roy Stanley, and then we appreciate our dear speaker, Dr. Yomi Layinka. Despite the short notice, you honored our invitation. We thank you very much, sir, and we did not take you for granted. And also, I want to appreciate the POP and all the OP presidents here present and those that hooked up with us online. Thank you for buying into this event. We really appreciate you. And all the distinguished Rotarians, both that online and physically present here, we really appreciate your time. We thank you for participating. And also, let me say this, permit me to acknowledge Rotarian Christine Mbaba. You know, we appreciate your contribution. You've worked on this program for a very long time, and you stay tuned, you contribute, and I've learned that you join us from US. Thank you very much. We really appreciate you. Everybody here present physically and people that joined us online, you've made this event a successful one. Without you, it would have been a success. We have so many, another one, we have Professor Sheikh of IC Love of God in Nigeria. We have, I made to understand, we have other people that hooked up from Indian and across the globe. If I want to be mentioning names here, I'm sure it will take a longer time to do that. Rather than a pawn from Indian, we appreciate you for joining us. Thank you very much, everyone. All the Rotarians and guests that hook up online for this program, we really appreciate you. And also, as part of the take from this seminar, as we all know that it was said that conflict is natural and inevitable as an outcome of human interaction. I think we need to take note of this and we need to apply it, you know, with wisdom, you know, since it's inevitable. Thank you very much once again, our speakers. We appreciate you. And we hope that If we invite you any other time, you will honor our invitation. Thank you very much.
My PDG, we are still waiting to hear from you. PDG Noka, if you are with us, can we hear your voice?
My
Anyway,
state peace chair,
yes, sir.
while we wait for our PDG to respond, I would quickly want to acknowledge Omar Jallo, who is from Gambia.
Oh, good.
He's also a positive peace activator, West and Central Africa, a very good friend and one of us, all the way from Gambia. And of course, our regional chairperson recognized Christine Mbaba from New Jersey. She's a member of Rotary Club of Abuja, Socorro Diamond. And of course, she's been every meeting that has to do with peace building, joining me here. I really want to appreciate her to be part of this meeting. And of course, the Indian Ratanel Pon, who just joined us. Yes. So you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, my district chair. And I will use that opportunity to eventually ask you to help us propose the toast to guests and peace building as we round off. But let me start by saying the toast to Nigeria will be taken by the Hope President, Rotary Club of Ibadan City Central, Oba Adeoye. Kabiyesi, are you online, please? Kabiyesi Adeoye.
Yes, I'm online.
Please give us a toast to Nigeria.
Thank you so much, the fellow Hope President, district officers present, fellow Rotarians. Shall you all join me as we toast to the Republic of Nigeria, a country that is blessed with human resources and material resources. Our own country, though passing through some difficult situations, but we are still proud of it, that things will get better. I urge all Rotarians, physically and online, to join me toast to that great country.
Long live.
Long live Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Long live the Republic of Nigeria.
Long live the Republic of Nigeria.
As my district is preparing to toast to Rotarians building, I implore Rotarian Ayo Lagoju of Rotary Club of Ilorin GRA to prepare to do the toast to guests, no, to Rotarians and Rotaractors. My peace chair, you can have your time now for peace building and guests.
Thank you so much, my state peace chair. Of course, recognizing the President of Presidents, League of Presidents, distinguished Rotarians, district leaders here with us, Rotaractors, if any, guests and friends. Let's charge our glasses as we toast to all our guests here with us and to peace building. To all our guests and to peace building.
To all our guests and to peace building.
All our guests and peace building.
Rotarian Ayo Lagoju, please do it to RI, please. Rotarian Ayo Lagoju, GRA, Ilorin, please. It seems it's not ready. Rotarian Balogun Olanrewaju, Rotary Club of Ibadan, Prestige. Can you please do that for us, Rotarian Balogun? Just to RI.
Yes, I'm here, sir. To all the Hope Presidents present, all the district officers, fellow Rotarians, guests and friends, I'd like to give a toast to that wonderful organization that has made me a friend to so many thousands of people over the world. An organization that has put you and I in the position to be able to put our resources and time together to help the needy. An organization that has been represented in a lot of organizations all over the world. Fellow Rotarians, guests and friends, please join me in toasting to that beautiful organization, Rotary International.
Rotary
world over.
PDG Noka, can we still have you? PDG Noka, please. Rotarians, guests and friends of Rotary, we want to thank every one of you and wish that we will have cause to continue to meet. I hereby call on the district chair to please give us the closing remark as we shut down the event. District chair, please.
Thank you so much once again for this wonderful seminar and webinar. And of course, we've learned so much from our amiable guest speaker, Yomi, and Professor Yomi here, and of course myself. And I also want to thank the organizers. That's first of all, the presidents of all Rotary clubs in Oyo State, the state peace chair, presidents of presidents, and of course, every one of us who participated in today's event. It's a remarkable one, even if today the month of March signifies water and sanitation, but it's better late than never. What we did today is very remarkable. I want to thank every one of us, and of course, also thank the DG, who of course is in the Zone 4 media review. He's supposed to be here. He said he would join in briefly. We've been chatting. So, but unfortunately, he has not popped up. So, but on that note, we would have to call off the meeting. And thank you all for joining. Enjoy your weekend. Stay safe. Stay blessed. And of course, your mental health, keep it very alert. We know that this period in Nigeria, it's a trying time for every one of us because of the economy. Let's all stay strong for one another as Rotarians. Let's be our brother's keeper. Promote the 8 pillars of positive peace wherever we find ourselves. And of course, we would see the benefits. Take good care of yourself and see you all. Thank you.
Thank you, my district chair. I wish every one of us peace unto us all. Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.